Here's something that's been bothering me about our industry. We have this obsession with playing it safe. We sanitize our messaging, we hedge our bets, we say the right things to the right people, and then we wonder why no one is paying attention to us. I've spent over 2 decades in this space watching advisory firms that should be growing astronomically, good people, smart strategies, solid track records, struggle to break through the noise. They follow the playbook, build a nice website, network at industry events, maybe sponsor a golf tournament, and then they sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Meanwhile, there's this firm in Santa Monica that's been doing everything differently since 2010. They're loud, they're opinionated, their CEO sometimes gets into Twitter fights with billionaires. They make bold statements on social media that sometimes spectacularly backfire, and yet, or maybe because of it, they've grown to over $3 billion in assets under management and serve over 7,000 households. That's what got my attention about Gerber Kawasaki. See, I've been thinking a lot lately about what it takes to build something remarkable in wealth management. And I keep coming back to this. The firms that are truly winning aren't just playing it safe. They're willing to stand for something, even if it means turning some people off. In fact, it means that you absolutely have to turn some people off. Ross Gerber figured out that financial media was, in his words, fucking boring. Those are his words, not mine. So instead of playing by those rules, he created his own game. Danilo Kawasaki built the operations to scale that vision, and Hatem Diab brought the investment rigor and incredible client service to back it up. The Growth Leaders of Wealth Management podcast tells the stories of advisory firm founders driving differentiated growth. And this conversation with Ross Gerber, President and CEO, Danilo Kawasaki, Vice President and COO, and Hatem Diab, Managing Partner at Gerber Kawasaki, is about something bigger than social media or investment picks. It's about having the courage to be polarizing in a world that sometimes rewards conformity. What you're about to hear isn't a case study in how to copy someone else's success. It's a conversation about what happens when you stop asking what's safe and start asking what's true. Let's dive in. The thing about crisis is that it reveals who people really are. In 2009, while most of the financial services industry was scrambling to explain away the collapse, 2 young advisors were watching from a beach shack in Rio as their own firm's parent company, AIG, lost $50 billion in a weekend. That's when Ross Gerber and Danilo Kawasaki came to an important realization that would change everything. The emperor had no clothes. Today, that moment of clarity has grown into Gerber Kawasaki, $3.36 billion in client assets, 7,000 households, and a completely different way of thinking about wealth management. Here's how it all started.
Gerber Kawasaki started in Brazil. Ross and I were in Rio for New Year's in 2009, and it was a really odd time for our industry because financial crisis had just happened, and we went through this.
I mean, it was kind of total destruction of our industry.
Yeah, big storm.
It was real bad,
and we're like, we needed some time off, so we went to Rio. Had the time of our lives, and
well, it just happened. We were both single at that time, so we had this small window so that we could go to Brazil,
live it up,
not get in trouble.
But we were coming back to our hotel 7 a.m. from a crazy night out, and we went to stop by at this shack to have a beer and a little something to eat
on the beach.
And I basically gave Ross this speech that if we're going back to the States, we got to start our own firm. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay here.
Because you had been where?
We were at Sun America Securities, which at the time was owned by AIG, which when the financial crisis started, we thought we were safe because we were with a AAA rated life insurance company, right? Had nothing to do with the financial crisis. And right at the apex of the crisis, AIG was the company that was
the news,
basically holding, all this
they
bad
were the bag
bets,
holders,
right?
Right.
And we knew a lot of the executives, and we were like, these people were clueless. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what we do for a living. They're just, you stay there 30 years, you get promoted, eventually you become CEO of these big firms, and you have no clue what you're doing.
It seems to be like how it still works.
Failing forward.
failing forward.
So
Just stay around. Yeah.
So that's really the seed that was planted in Brazil during that conversation was, let's go back home and like, let's do our own thing. There's there's so many broken things that needed to be fixed. And we were at the right time in a way. The financial crisis was a black swan event.
Now, we had several advantages. And the fundamental reason why we called ourselves Gerber Kawasaki was because, like Lehman Brothers had gone down, and you had all these traditions of these firms that were just dying, Bear Stearns. And we just said, like, these brands are broken. Let's create a new brand. Like, this is the time to do it, where nobody cares about Merrill Lynch and AIG anymore. Like, we're going to start Gerber Kawasaki.
Yeah.
So you saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
And what was your original thesis for growth? I mean, where did you think your first clients, your first assets were going to come from?
Well, we had been doing this for a little while.
Yeah, we weren't coming from scratch.
And we had a solid core team, which Hatem is a part of, our managing partners today. I think it's a testament to how correct we were of how solid that team was, because that team is still here with us today and helping us actually run the firm. And I think I should acknowledge them. It's Hatem, it's Matt Iantoska, Ayal Shamilovich, Zach Bainter, Ben Dunbar, Francine Line, Elijah Souza. They were all there.
But when we started, it was like 30 million in AUM and like 50 million in AUA.
Mm-hmm.
So we had something like 60 or 80 million total assets. But really, the premise of when we started was built around three main concepts. One was the internet and social media. We had already been the first firm to really use Facebook at the time to grow, and Twitter. And so,
but this is 2010. Okay, Facebook just coming out.
It just came out.
Yeah.
We were the first firm using this, and we started using it.
It wasn't just that. We were part of a pilot program for FINRA.
Right. Well, that was when we got in trouble.
On how to use social media for advisors. So from the very beginning, we were embedded in how FINRA was looking at social media and writing compliance rules to monitor that. So
we kind of came up with the original rules, actually, for the industry, because we just were doing it. And see, we got away with it for a while because AIG was a mess. And so as a byproduct, there were no compliance people. And so I was just posting, like I was like, nobody calls me, I'm just going to keep doing it, and we
got in trouble.
Well, then we got in trouble, and then they called me up and they're like, you can't do this anymore. But the lady who was put in charge of compliance at AIG was appointed by the government, and she was really smart and really good. And she's like, actually, we don't really care you're doing this, but FINRA is so confused and they need help. Will you help them and help make rules? But you guys have to follow some sort of rules, but make them up for us. And I was like, let's join the program. Let's do it. And so we did. And I used to have to submit each Facebook post to compliance before we posted it, And
we're going to dive into social media because I'm really intrigued by how that has been a driver of growth. But I want you to finish with the pillars. So internet and social media was like one pillar.
Yeah. So one pillar was that, and then the second pillar was the audience that we speak to, which is we manage money for all people of all wealth groups. This gives us a much bigger market. So the way we look at the market is most of the firms only focus on the 1%.
Right.
Okay. So you got, I don't know how many firms there are, 10,000 firms in the United States or something, or more.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're all going for these like same, I don't know, a couple thousand families, right? And it's like, oh, the Holy Grail, I got a, $20 million client. And that's sort of like how the industry functioned. And then we were like, wait, what about everybody else? Which turns out there's 99% of people. And even if you look at, 50% of people in America don't save. So they're not really great, target market because they just don't save. And then the other 50% do, but only, like 49% of those people aren't being served. So why don't we serve them?
And it just happened too that Silicon Beach was starting to pick up here.
Right.
And all these big tech firms were opening offices here and hiring, attracting young talent. And us being a younger firm, we can relate to these people really well.
Which is number 3,
which
is we hire people of all age groups and we have a training program. This is something that differentiates us from almost every firm in our industry. We actually hire and train people out of college,
it does.
Out of the CFP programs to become financial advisors or right-wing person to a financial advisor. Our culture of training was where we started from. And I think most firms, when you say, why aren't they growing? It's because they're not developing individuals and they rely on
it's a lot of effort. It takes a long time.
It's a 3-year investment. Yeah. We're not saying this is easy, but the other option is they go out and buy firms. And so our industry model is basically you like get big enough that then you just buy people.
Buy because you don't know how to build.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because you don't know how to build. And for us, I was like, why would we want to spend all this money when the clients will come to us for free because we're better? And why don't we just develop advisors? And that's what we've been doing. I mean, Dee and I have been doing this well before we started GK. But I realized that was the future. And when we started GK, we were considered a hybrid. And so we would still sell and we would do AUM. But what we realized was even though in the first 5 years we'd give up dollars in sales to think long-term to do AUM, we were like, dude, long-term, this is way better for us because then we don't have to go out and get new clients every year. We can service our clients and be compensated to do this and have a relationship that we're on the same side of the table with clients instead of selling
different conversation with clients.
Yeah, totally. Sure. And so we saw that.
That was the main impetus of Gerber Kawasaki after the financial crisis.
It was the fiduciary
It was
model.
the fiduciary.
Yeah, 100%.
It was proving that these companies did not care about their clients, did not put their clients' interests first.
Yeah.
So by being a true fiduciary, be able to tell clients that, we're absolutely working on your best interest was a key factor.
100%. I mean, and then, a lot of people forget the whole Madoff side of that too, where we were also in a period of time where we had to deal with that. And so people didn't trust financial advisors at all.
Right.
Well, I think the internet helped people be more knowledgeable and kind of learn more about financial services and how people do things. And just really people are just more aware, right? Like when you're on the same side as them and that happens, I think, and we are being able to tell that story online has just helped us.
Yeah. What Ross and Danilo just described isn't just a founding story. It's a blueprint that most firms are still afraid to follow. 3 pillars that seem obvious in hindsight, but were radical in 2010. Embrace digital marketing when everyone else is playing it safe. Serve people at the beginning of their wealth journey instead of chasing the same ultra-wealthy clients as everyone else. And hire young talent you can actually train rather than trying to poach established advisors. These weren't just good ideas, they were survival strategies that became growth engines. And 15 years later, they're still what sets Gerber Kawasaki apart. How would you classify some inflection points if you think about 2010 to today, 2025? What are some milestone moments in the firm that you're most proud of?
COVID.
I think before that, Silicon Beach, what Danilo mentioned, was great because all of a sudden you have all these tech companies coming to LA, starting to grow, and there was really no firms dealing with equity comp or how to help founders with their
and
younger people also. You have all these basically old firms with old people, and we were different. We were younger. We understood this space. We understood technology. We invested in technology, so they kind of related to us. So I think all of those kind of were nice ways for us to really relate to some of these clients.
We're definitely in the right place.
Yeah, right place, right time. And these clients still with us today, right? They founded companies, some of which went public, some of which are doing really well. So I think that was really big growth.
Mm-hmm. But I don't want to underestimate how important COVID was to our success, despite at the time being a huge adversity.
Right.
Because that was when 2 big things happened. One was client expectation changed from I have to see you in person to I'm perfectly fine with a Zoom call, which increased our productivity by 100%. It's amazing how many clients we can see a week now compared to when people would drive and park and come into the office and they were late and we were managing all this and we're driving around. I can't tell you what a huge efficiency gain this has been for our firm. And we're continuing to employ we use Zoom, but a lot of different Zoom features now in our relationship management with clients. And we've lost none of the high touch value that we typically got in the old days by using Zoom, and that clients would accept this as a medium to do financial planning. Plus, because of traffic and parking, people really appreciate that. And older people too, getting around, it's tough, right? So this was a game changer for us. So the minute we adopted Zoom, our productivity doubled and our numbers.
Digital first, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like
it doubled
amazing.
in COVID.
Oh yeah. I mean,
we went from $1 billion to
we went from $1 billion to 2.2.
Productivity went up
in
50%.
2 years.
They are marketing people, operational people.
Well,
50%.
Well,
Did
but
you
the
come
moral
into COVID
was,
with about $1 billion in assets?
we had $1 billion at the
I
beginning
think,
of COVID,
just
and
to
we had
answer-
2.2 billion by the end of 22. So it took
Wow.
us 10 years to get to
$1
$1 billion. and
I
2
put that
years
as
to get
our-
another billion
and point
more.
two, yeah.
I definitely put that as a main inflection point for us, getting
Right.
to that first billion.
Yeah.
And what
yeah.
you hear is
That's
exactly
it's so true. Yeah.
The first billion is the hardest.
It's hard work.
And once you get there, to get to 2, to get to 3, things have, moved up a little fast. You can't accelerate experience. You can't accelerate, be able to say, I've been in the business now for 10 years,
I have
right?
$1 billion in assets.
I have $1 billion
Right.
in assets. So that has to happen. That's where the grunt of the work comes, and, hiring new people, training new people, that takes time. So it did take us 9 years,
Almost 10.
almost 10 years
Yeah.
to get there. And then
And that was like we were pushing to get there.
yeah. And then I think within the next year and a half,
it was
we doubled.
it was a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But we also got lucky in that year and a half because the market went crazy and everybody went online.
there's no luck involved.
Well, no.
There's zero luck.
The market could have gone down in COVID too, but
that's
it was one of our best years in the market because we were Tesla investors, and
Right, your
and
investment philosophy really
our
proved
investment
out in that.
philosophy paid off
Right.
big time in 20 and 21 for us. And
our investment philosophy is a differentiator for us
It
too,
is.
For sure.
because we did not want to just have this cookie cutter, asset allocation models. We
farm it out.
we wanted to also have our advisors be money managers, not just glorified, salespeople. And we meet every week to discuss investments, to talk about the stock market, to
And educating people.
share what's going on. So when our advisors are going over their portfolio review, clients' portfolio reviews, they know what they're talking about. They know why this is in there, why this is not, why we sold this, why we bought that. And that was part of the differentiator, the philosophy that we brought in that was new at the time, because so many firms worry too much about productivity and efficiency, but then they just put things on a
Auto cycle.
an auto repeat so they can go out and travel and play golf, like we're here working. We're proud
trying to
of that.
find investments.
Yeah.
Here's what I find fascinating about their investment approach. It's not about taking wild risks for the sake of being different. It's about having the conviction to back your research with real money. While other firms were outsourcing investment decisions to offload that responsibility, Gerber Kawasaki was making early bets on companies like Tesla and NVIDIA, partially because that's where their clients worked. They understood something fundamental. If you're going to serve tech employees, you better understand the tech companies they work for. I have a personal story to share. Hatem and I are in the same Entrepreneurs Organization Forum group. We've developed a special relationship over the last 5 years by being in Forum together. And after our recent retreat, I remember that we were all on a flight home. I was tired. I wanted to rest and recharge. My mind was full after a long, fulfilling, and engrossing weekend. But a few rows ahead of me, Hatem was sitting there with his laptop up and his glasses on, watching the NVIDIA earnings call from earlier that day. I watched him as he would rewind, take notes, and run it back again. The next day, all of those notes turned into amazing content on their Future Money podcast. That kind of consistency and follow-through across the business says a lot about how seriously they take their role in guiding investment decisions. My personal story about Hatem and I on the plane, that wasn't a one-off moment. That's who they are every single day. This is what differentiated investment management actually looks like. And now this is how it shows up in their digital marketing for their clients and online community.
Because we were online when COVID hit and everybody went online, everybody was like, started trading stocks and this and that. And everybody was like looking for like, who do we follow that does this? And we were already there. So we just like kind of exploded. And then we got a couple opportunities, to do some shows that were like crossover shows. But the real crossover for us was when we went to YouTube. And I met this guy named Meet Kevin, and I went on his YouTube show, and this was during COVID, and he blew up to have about 2 million followers. And I go on his show, and that afternoon, we had like 200 emails.
Yeah, that first show you did.
The first show was
great.
insane. It was
great.
insane.
Yeah.
There was this massive market of people. And so I would just do the show and get like 50, 100 leads a show, and it was incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Shout out to Meet Kevin.
Yeah.
He was one of the first ones to have kind of built that massive
He was
following,
one of the first
on YouTube.
financial influencers, basically. But because we're close, it allowed us to get to an audience that turned out to be massive compared to traditional television. And that was a little secret that we learned in this process, was that podcasts and YouTube was way better than doing traditional media for getting leads. And we were able to do, which was kind of our dream at the beginning, where we would just wake up in the morning and we'd have leads. That was kind of our dream. And that's what happens here every day. Every day we get leads. We don't have, we do stuff for them, like shows and all this kind of stuff, but every day we get business in, and our advisors get these opportunities, and they're great opportunities.
Yeah. So let's dive into that a bit, because I think generally speaking across the industry, most advisory firms struggle with understanding the power of social media, and how you can leverage it as a significant driver of growth. And I think the amount that I perceive, or that I observe Gerber Kawasaki to invest, both from, money, but also time perspective into your content, the quality of your content, the frequency, the consistency of your content, how it's distributed across channels. It's clearly a significant driver of growth. And I can tell that it's part of your strategy. And so if you could sort of rewind to before the leads were coming in, and your inboxes were full, was it just this inherent sort of understanding that you had that this was the way of the world, that this is how people were connecting, that you felt like you knew that you had to show up on social media?
I think it's a byproduct of Ross being who he is, because you can be sitting here watching this as an advisor, and you have zero personality, right? And it's not your thing. It's not your thing to be in front of a camera and be outspoken about it.
It's not easy either. Yeah.
And this guy here was kind of born to do this. He's a communication major. Yeah. He's been studying this for a long time. And having a team that complements each other, because we all have different set of skills, right? He's on TV. I'm usually here working, He gets all the credit. His personality.
I give you credit all the time.
He's signing autographs.
No, I couldn't do it without you. But we knew that from the beginning. Nor does he want to be on TV. Probably doesn't even want to be on this podcast. But it's like,
I asked the temp if it could get out.
No, but it's
Thanks,
like
Danilo.
Nothing to do with you.
No, but it's kind of like
I'm happy to be here.
It is like a marriage in the sense of like you have to have complementary, things that. And also different skill sets. Danilo and I are very different in many ways too. But I think I come from an entertainment business background. And what I figured out really early on was that financial media was fucking boring. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's brutal. Okay.
I don't think you can just fucking, but
you can growth leaders. You're welcome to.
Just try watching it all day. That's why the sound's off. That's why everybody watches it with the sound off, is because it's boring. And it's like one guy after the next, or gal just spitting out numbers or whatever. So I was like, how do I make this fun? Because like people don't want to listen to this, and we have to communicate to people. So how do I make this fun?
If I can add to what Ross is doing, is being authentic. Like people with long format, they want to see who the person is. They don't want to see some kind of packaged 2-minute person, right? They want to see who you are, what you stand for. Does that really can I relate to? And that's the thing what he does really well. And then as the firm does really well, I think that's brought us a lot of clients.
Sure. Well, and now I think the media opportunities are diversified across the organization. So obviously you're sort of quite the influencer with your following on social media and the number of appearances that you have. There's multiple podcasts that are produced here, YouTube shows, and it's not just the partners. Like it looks to me like you give the opportunity to others. And so you're really building that durable, sustainable growth because, it works. You said one of the pillars was when you started the firm, like an original thesis was that you wanted to serve the 99%, or if you take out the 50% that don't save, the 49%. I would challenge you a little bit on that because I think what I find to be so intriguing about Gerber Kawasaki is I actually think you have a very unique point of view and specific worldviews that to me signal a very specific type of client that you work with. Like I can understand in observing and experiencing your content that there is a specific set of psychographics, beliefs about investments, the types of questions that your ideal client I imagine to be asking, and you're sort of getting ahead of them. So to me, it's not that you're trying to serve all people from all wealth, but that you're trying to make sure that you're connecting with the people that share your worldviews and that want to be a part of this firm and what you've built.
You can't appeal to everyone. With our philosophy of help, it's not just that we want to help everyone. Like we want to help people who want to be helped, regardless of how much money they have. And especially if they have a bright future ahead. Some of our top clients today are clients who started with us under this Get Invested program that we have that have no account minimums. And now they're in their top 10 of our clients.
It's crazy.
Because they've grown their companies, the companies that they worked for, stock option plans, they went public, and now they've become ultra high net worth clients. And those clients are the most loyal clients we have.
For sure.
Because we were there when they didn't have much. That sure, Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley weren't calling them.
Right.
And we've positioned ourselves to not only work with those clients, but get referrals from those happy clients. They're almost like part of our family. They attend every event we do. They are, they're some of our biggest net promoters of our business. And that's the byproduct of not thinking just short term, right? And I think so many advisors in our industry are not really trying to grow at 25%, 30% growth rate a year. They're just trying to get 5 new clients a year. And
just trying to bring in more than they lose with decumulation.
I think I read on LPL that we have some like 515 new clients just this year already.
I mean, the numbers are big, and our average client age is still in the 40s. So we have, this growth rate ahead of us that is like so exciting.
The average advisor age is also in the 30s, which is
for sure.
So unusual.
Yeah, super unusual,
right?
Not to any of our credits.
Right.
We're bringing the numbers up. We used to be the young ones. It's like...
What strikes me the most about the partners at Gerber Kawasaki is how they've turned their differences into a competitive advantage. Ross is the provocateur, willing to take on billionaires on Twitter and make bold predictions on national TV. Not many people have that courage to take a real stance. Danilo is the foundation, building the systems and culture that can handle that type of public attention. And Hatem brings the investment rigor and client relationships that make it all work. Many firms would see this as a liability, but these guys have turned it into their secret weapon. It's a high-wire act for sure, but it's also exactly why their clients love them. When you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you become exactly the right thing for the people you seek to serve. Are you ready to have more confidence in how marketing is driving growth at your advisory firm? At FICOM, we believe the best marketing-enabled growth happens when you have the right strategic foundation. When your marketing strategy aligns your purpose with who you serve and the change that you seek to create for your business. That's our strategic marketing framework, and I love that you get to see it play out in the stories you hear from every Growth Leaders guest. We serve as your outsourced CMO and marketing department using our proven methodology to help you achieve greater and more sustainable growth. Visit ficompartners.com to learn more. There's something almost backwards about Gerber Kawasaki's gorgeous new Santa Monica office. In an industry that's gone very virtual with clients, they've just built what Ross calls a clubhouse, a place where advisors collaborate instead of compete, where clients drop by for events or just to check in, and where learning happens organically. But here's what I think they understand that others don't. Digital marketing gets people's attention, but real relationships happen in person. They've figured out how to use technology to scale their reach while using physical space to deepen their connections. It's not one or the other, it's both working together. And with the massive AI-driven disruption we are each experiencing across every facet of our lives, I believe that clients will soon be craving more and more in-person interaction with their trusted advisors, because otherwise they're just not going to know what's real. Clearly, the team at Gerber Kawasaki gets it too.
We're also accessible. Those clients can come in. That's why we built the office the way we did, or I don't even like calling it an office because it's not. It's really a clubhouse for clients to have access to us. And that accessibility. And so what we realized with the advent of Zoom, we had to offset that by still building real human relationships. And we decided the best way to do that was by having parties and events with our clients so that when we got together in person, it would be fun, but we could do these calls by Zoom because they still want to have a real connection. And, our whole management team's there, and now, when I go out, even on the weekends, I'll run into clients of our firm and they'll say hi and I say hi. And
we have 8,000 clients.
Yeah. So it's like this community that we built, but our accessibility, I think, gives people comfort to refer us. They feel comfortable bringing their friends in and things like that, because if they want to come talk to me or they have any questions, like we're available, like Danilo will talk to somebody else's client. We don't care. We want our clients to be happy.
Yeah.
I always say this is like Disneyland here. There's no reason why people shouldn't be happy. And if they're not happy, our management team needs to get involved and figure out what's going wrong here. And that's really important to us. And that's why we don't have client complaints. And this is something, we get here and there, there's 8,000 clients, but I'm just saying we take a lot of pride in doing what's best for clients. And we have not had the kind of problems a lot of firms have because of this.
The way Gerber Kawasaki thinks about client acquisition challenges everything I've been taught about this industry. Most firms have no real sales strategy at all. They just hope referrals happen organically and wonder why growth has become so hard. These guys have built something completely different, an intensive training program that teaches young advisors not just how to manage money, but actually how to get clients. They track referrals weekly, hold people accountable, and create a real sales culture. But here's the brilliant part. They don't train their advisors to be salespeople. They train them to be genuinely interesting people who contribute to their local communities, serve on charity boards, get involved politically, show up where it matters. It's old school relationship building with new school accountability. I want to go back to the comment that you made about today, you're coming into the office and that was the dream, is that you're opening an inbox and there's leads. Are they qualified, the leads that are coming in through your digital channels? Are they mostly qualified, or is there still that process of needing to work them through?
We've done this long enough where the bad ones are fairly obvious. The ratio to good to bad varies depending on the shows you do and stuff like that. But in
topics
and things like that. But what I have found, especially more recently, is we're getting higher quality leads, even though they're less. So I rather have that. We used to get a lot more leads in the old days, but they were like, we'd have to weed through a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you're not paying. These are not paid, right?
No.
These are just your organic content strategy.
Genius. When we started, we would do like AdWords and things like that back in the old days.
That was good though.
It was good because it was cheap back then because nobody advertised.
We were pioneers.
Yeah. So we had no competition on AdWords back in the day. And so I would just spend, let's say, $200 a lead. That's what it would cost us. Yeah. But then as everybody started advertising on Google, it started costing us $600, $800, $900 a lead. It didn't make sense anymore. And so we stopped doing it. But now because fortunately, we're so big, like we don't have to spend any money on advertising. We spend all of our money on events, basically. And we'll get referrals from them.
Yeah.
Sure.
See, the whole thing for us and the whole business model still relies around referrals. All the leads don't matter if we don't get referrals from them. And that's part of our training that's also different than other firms. I don't think other firms actually have meetings where they train advisors how to actually get referrals.
All the time, consistently. It's part of your DNA.
It's just part of what we do.
We track every week how many referrals each advisor gets.
And what happens.
An accountability scorecard, something like that.
Well, now we put it all in Salesforce too, which is so you can even see the links of where each client comes from and its roots. But because we're good at referrals, each lead has leverage in a way that if it was just, here's your one lead, that's nice, but then next week I got to give you another one. But if I give you the one lead and you get 3 good appointments out of that, now you have exponential growth.
And it's also like part of our culture, right?
Yeah,
like
it is.
We give accolades if you got 10 leads, 10 referrals this week. And we public shame you if you got 0, and we all laugh about it. Guess what? Next week, that person who got 0 is going to have a few referrals to share.
And
right?
I think also that works because of the collaboration in the office. Like everyone shares experiences, shares what's happened to them, what's working, what's not working, right? Like there is that energy in the office where everyone is actually together. We're not kind of competing. We're competing, but we're not competing in a bad way. So that really helps with kind of
You just hit on a really important thing.
I mean, Hatem will go to lunch today and get 2 leads himself, like just meeting people. That's what he does.
He's a professional.
That's what he does best. And he actually trains our younger.
Yeah, that's what he does. He trains networking. You go to a party. How do you meet somebody and appropriately potentially get a client out of it instead of looking like a schmo? Things like that. And Hatem has this wonderful ability to meet people. People love him. He's extremely social,
positive.
And for a lot of financial advisors, that's not your natural skill set. So we have training that he does just to help people like be good at a party. How do I go to a networking event
and behave
be
and
cool?
show up?
And you want to be cool. You don't want to be the person pitching every person at the networking event. Everybody's like, oh, no, that
You'd be
that
interesting.
was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so there's this subtlety that Hatem is great at. And so that's why he trains that.
On that specifically.
Totally. Because, so many of our clients come from social interactions, networking, charitable groups. That's another thing we highly encourage is being involved with the community.
Yeah.
All of our advisors, we say, listen, you need to join a charity and not just like give $100. You need to do the events, go, be a part of it, join the board. I remember convincing Hatem to do this many, many years ago. And now he's worked his way really high up in this great charity, the Selfless Love Foundation, making a huge difference, but also meeting and getting invited to all kinds of great things. But when people see that you're giving back to the community, it's a huge plus from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
We're also in LA, right? Like it is going through some tough times right now at Palisades, but Danilo and Ross are from the Palisades. Like, just being involved politically, trying to really kind of have an impact within our community, which is what most of our clients are, has been awesome because people know we can get things done.
When Gerber Kawasaki talks about their 3-tier client strategy, standard wealth management, high net worth, and their Get Invested program for people just starting out, they're really talking about something bigger. They're building a pipeline that most firms ignore. While everyone else fights over the same established wealth, they're creating relationships with people who might not have much today, but could have everything tomorrow. Some of their biggest clients started in that entry tier. That's not just smart business, that's playing the long game while everyone else is stuck in quarterly thinking.
Yeah,
so when you're sitting together at the end of this year and you're doing business planning, business strategy session, what are you looking towards to have that continued accelerated aggressive growth next year?
I mean, we're talking about the software you've been working on for all this time? That's a big part of it.
We're trying to be one of the biggest RA firms in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's a big statement, but that's, for sure where we're going. And being in this new space is a part of that growth opportunity. We are revamping our entire tax stack. We had a chance to learn from one of the most respected industry leaders in this RIA space, and this person kind of doubted that we could do this ourselves, and that's all it takes for us to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that works with Danilo really well. Just doubt him a little bit.
It's been about it's been about 6 months, and we're 70% of the way there, which is basically creating a very customized advisor portal platform. As we talked about here, we're very good at organic growth. We have never put any effort into trying to hire advisors with a book, and that's where we're going next. For us, is to have a turnkey portal for advisors to plug in and just 100% focus on client relationship management, where trading, lead generation, marketing, everything is centralized, and we want to be present in other places in the country. You know, we're mostly here in Santa Monica. Most of our clients are in Santa Monica.
Well, we have one office. That is one of the things that makes us unique in that we did not do what most firms do where they have 3 or 4 advisors and teams all around in these little offices.
Yeah.
That's where we came from. And I was like, dude, I'm not doing that again. Like we're driving around. There's no continuity.
Yeah.
And so we have one big office and everybody can work remote if they want. But we just built this digital platform, but we also built a physical platform to grow the company. And that's the new.
We've identified 10.
We've just taken.
10 markets, cities, 10 markets that fit our demographics. And, we're looking for advisors with, 3-4 years of experience that maybe manage 30 million and they want to manage 100 million. And we know how to do that. We know how to get them to that point.
So we're trying to find young teams now in new states that we can grow from and still, they can come to the central hub and learn and be a part of it, but then have these spokes in 10 markets is what we're focusing now. So we had to build a physical and digital structure, which is kind of what we learned last year, and so we started putting a lot of time into that last year and money. And so we've made the biggest investment in our company's history over the last 12 months in digital and physical upgrades so that we can become the $25 to $50 billion firm that we want to be in the next 5 years.
Why do you want to be a $25 to $50 billion firm?
There's no reason economically in that we make plenty of money right now. It's really about helping as many people as possible is the way I look at it. So like the younger generation and the middle-aged generation is getting screwed. I mean, it's just the bottom line. When you look at how hard it is to buy a house, paying your student loans, like we make a difference in people's lives. And I think once you get past the sort of economics of like, why am I motivated every day? Oh, I have to pay my bills. Like what really motivates you and like, why did you even exist here? And for us, we're financial advisors. So for me, if we can, we have 10,000 or 8,000 families we're helping, and we can double that. Like that's a lot of people we can help. And truthfully, we send kids to college.
Yeah.
People rely on us. Yeah. I take a lot of pride in that because I think our team is, when you talk about being authentic, we like actually really care about our clients.
Yeah.
And that relationship, not only with our staff, but with our clients is really what keeps me going. And so if we can be a huge firm, it's really so we can help as many people as possible,
Yeah.
I mean,
our true north has always been trying to help as many people as possible.
Like we have this gift, why not share?
The AUM will take care of itself if we do that, right?
Yeah.
Some clients will have a ton of money, some clients will be just getting started. But, if we're helping people lead better lives and have, financial security and peace of mind, I mean, what a great job we have.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And we've turned down a lot of offers from bigger firms that want to kind of gobble us. And we're like, no, that's not our goal, because we know the first thing that'll happen is they'll cut our services teams and they'll cut, back or want our advisors to get paid less or this or that. This is not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to maximize the outcome for us. We're trying to maximize the outcome for everybody. And I think if you do that, it works out pretty well for you,
Hi, Tim, you and I have a lot of conversations, but recently I've been talking a lot about AI and sort of how that's going to impact and either accelerate or disrupt the industry. And you said even earlier today that you think at some point financial plans will all be created on ChatGPT. So how do you see the future of growth for Gerber Kawasaki in context of what
I think all of us saw like how bad some of the technology in our space is, right? And there's so much innovation, so much changes happening in technology right now. And most advisors are frankly not using it, right? They're relying to whatever custodian technology they get, and they're not really building their bespoke technology stack. That's what Danilo is saying, is we brought all these different pieces from CRM to trading to being able to manage your own book, manage your own clients. Like all of that has to work together, right? And we have a lot of younger advisors who are just very tech forward. They're just digitally native. They just want to use technology in different ways, right? We have a lot of younger people who even think of technology different than me or Ross or Danilo, and they have ideas and they stepped up and they're like, hey, this is how it should be done. And then when you factor in AI, bring that in as a really an efficiency
enhancer.
Tool. Yeah, enhancer. Right. Like, if you go to Kyle's office now, OpenAI is like right there. That's like the number one thing that he uses, right, for everything. He told me the other day, like he can't even send an email anymore by himself. So I think the reality is these tools are here to help accelerate this growth. And if we don't use it, if the advisors are not using it,
we're just going to fall behind.
Yeah, it's efficient.
Yeah.
It's efficient.
What we've learned during this, tech revamp is a lot of the tax solutions are created on legacy platforms that are so inflexible.
Yeah.
And the reason why
they kind of suck.
Yeah. The reason why it's taking us a little longer is because we're not willing to accept that. So we're, using some of that platform, but then on the side, we're creating our own codes and programs to be able to work and be flexible going forward to include things like AI and the future growth of, and there's tremendous nascent technology companies targeting the financial industry that, we've learned in the last 6 months that we're, figuring out how to adopt into these legacy systems. And, some of these people are looking at us like we're crazy, like, oh, we've never heard of this company before, or I don't think this can be done. And we're like, yes, of course it can be done. Let's just figure it out how, right? Yeah. So that's kind of where we are. And I'm really excited to, this is our main project for this year, is to be able to finish that. So next year we can, go and find the right advisors to
and
join
then
our
it's
firm.
like plug and play. So it's like those advisors can join our organization, and it's just like simple for them to like plug in.
You're building a growth platform,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like for a younger team or advisor who really wants to grow. And that's really the way we look at it. We don't really want to buy a team that's already successful and all.
We hired a kid. We hired a kid from another firm. He just started last week. He's been doing this for 3 years. He has $4 million in assets. We have kids that we hired here 3 years ago that are managing $80 million. So, like.
Yeah.
How does that even happen? You know?
Well, the guy wasn't helping them. That's the whole thing. You hire these kids and they just put them in the office.
And this is a hardworking kid.
Right.
This is a hardworking kid. I mean, we hired him last week. He's been here this whole time.
Every day.
I think he's
like,
home.
are you guys going to?
I think he's gone home. I think he's sleeping in the office.
No, we're trying to get the office culture back without forcing people. And I was saying, like, I'm not going to force you to come work, but honestly, like, you should be coming to work every day.
You're surrounded by the right.
And this guy's like, can I come in on Saturday?
I mean, people are jumping the gate to get into
that's a different
problem. Friday night.
Yeah.
Right, Alex?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like everybody wants to work from home. We have the only office people are breaking into. It's like our employees got caught breaking into our office on the first weekend.
I will wrap us up. I would love for each of you just to, if you could distill that whole conversation, which was really valuable. I came into today with a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for this firm and have known how you've always been leading from the front. And I'm so grateful for your openness and transparency and sharing more of that story. So I leave an even bigger fan. And I'm grateful to each of you for sharing that with our audience at Growth Leaders.
You mean all our competitors?
If you could, we're going to lift each other up, Ross. So if you could distill all of that into just one sentence, and I'd love to hear from each of you, like Gerber Kawasaki has grown from 0 to 3.36 billion in 15 years because?
We're a family.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working.
I was going to say teamwork.
Yeah, we're working together towards a common goal that we all buy into it.
That, and I think we like each other a lot. I mean, we're going to have our ups and downs in like every relationship. And I'm proud to say these are some of my best friends too. And so when you can work with your best friends and you have the same goals, it's a unique situation. And we've worked hard to make it this way because managing, as we said, relationships with basically 9 partners who are all different is work. And we're all very different personalities. But I take a lot of pride that we are successful with that.
Yeah.
Our family.
And this family definition 100% includes our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not just talking about family in here. It's a family of, GK and all of our.
And our teams don't compete against each other for clients. It's very unique, in that sense.
Our clients, they invest in our success. They know us really well. We've known them really well. We've gone through a lot of life events, losing jobs, starting things, people dying. So we've gone through so much stuff and we always cared, we always done the right thing. And that's always been kind of our true north. And as a result, I think we don't lose clients. That's why they're there with us, So I think that's really
we've got
important.
one office. We've got over 50 people working in it. And, we're trying to create a culture
58.
58 now?
Yeah.
I said just over 50 because I knew we were at 52, but it's like, Yeah, I know. I came in the other day and I was like, who's this person? It turned out he actually worked at Tesla. And I was like, why are you working here? You know, did you see that? Oh, you weren't here? Were you here on Friday? That? Chase's friend. And he's like a Tesla employee. And I came in, I was like, did we hire this guy? And he goes, no, I work in battery tech at Tesla. I go, oh, you're the right person for me to talk to. I'm like, is Elon working today? Can you
Do you have Elon's ear?
Well, he was. It turned out he was working today.
Well, you've built a remarkable business, so I hope that you find a lot of fulfillment and pride in that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks
for your support.
Yeah, we appreciate conversation. Thank you.
After spending time with the Gerber Kawasaki team, I keep coming back to one thing. They figured out how to scale authenticity. Most firms either stay small to maintain their culture, or they grow and they lose what made them special in the first place. Somehow, Gerber Kawasaki has managed to grow to over $3 billion in assets while getting more distinctive, not less. They're not trying to be the biggest firm in wealth management. They're trying to be the most useful. And in a world full of financial advisors who sound exactly the same, that might be the most radical strategy of all. I'd really love to hear what resonated with you from today's conversation, so I hope you'll find me on LinkedIn and share your takeaways with me. At FICOM Partners, we're on a mission to help advisory firms achieve the growth they're capable of. We serve as your outsourced CMO and marketing department, driving marketing-enabled organic growth through strategy, execution, and advisor coaching. For more valuable resources from my team, visit ficompartners.com/insights. And please subscribe to this podcast and YouTube show to continue learning from inspiring growth journeys. I'd like to thank today's guests, our producers at Pod Pony, production assistant Molly Spina, and my amazing executive assistant, Kristen George. This is Meg Carpenter, CEO and co-founder at FICOM Partners and your host of Growth Leaders of Wealth Management.